If you're a fan of The Wizard of Oz, then stick around, because you're about to discover 10 behind-the-scenes facts you probably didn't know about this legendary Hollywood musical. Since The Wizard of Oz was made way before CGI was around, you may have wondered how they created a tornado for the film. They did it by using a 30-foot long muslin stocking that was wound around chicken wire from the top to the bottom of the set, and dirt and dust was blown through it. They used rear projection to play the footage of the tornado in the background, with Judy Garland acting on a set in the foreground. It's an impressive effect given that this movie was made way back in the late 1930s. If you ever wondered how they did the color change effect when Dorothy leaves her house, it was all done on set using sleight of hand. The inside of the house was painted in sepia tones, and a double for Judy Garland was wearing a sepia-colored dress. Then, as the double opened the door, she handed Toto over to Judy Garland off-screen, and then Garland stepped in the frame with her colorful dress as the camera dollied forward. The filmmakers wanted 300 little people, but were only able to get about 124, so they filled the background and small windows of Munchkinland with several little children instead. Most of the little people were vaudevillian performers from Europe, and they didn't speak English, but Mickey Carroll was from St. Louis, so he was responsible for dubbing almost all of the Munchkins' voices, including the Lollipop Guild and even Auntie M, when the actress who played her couldn't be heard over the wind machine. Bert Lahr almost didn't play the Cowardly Lion, because at first MGM considered some pretty crazy options, such as making the lion an animated character, or even using their iconic Leo the Lion and dubbing him with voiceover in post-production. Ray Bolger wasn't the first person considered to play the Scarecrow. The part was actually given first to Buddy Ebsen, and Bolger was cast as the Tin Man instead. But Bolger insisted he was meant for the Scarecrow, because of his gangly dance style that he thought suited the Scarecrow best. Bolger spoke to the studio executives about it, and after many heated discussions, he was able to convince them to have the two actors switch roles. Sadly though, most of Ray Bolger's dance skills never made it to the silver screen, because the Scarecrow's dance break at the end of his song was cut, because the movie's original length was about 2 hours, which was too long for a kids' movie back in the 1930s. Another scene that got deleted was a strange jitterbug musical number that would have taken place while the witch sent out her flying monkeys. It was a costly scene to cut because it was rehearsed for 5 weeks before the musical number was removed. But the decision to cut it was mainly because the number was too upbeat of a scene to be placed in the middle of all the dramatic tension of the flying monkeys. Dorothy's ruby red slippers are one of the most iconic props in film history, and Judy Garland wears them for almost the entire movie. But there's one shot on the yellow brick road where you can see a quick glimpse of Judy Garland wearing a pair of black leather shoes instead of her ruby red slippers. The horse of a different color was actually played by 3 horses. Each of them were sprayed with a mixture of food coloring, vegetable oil, and jello powder to give their coats their bright, colorful appearance. And reportedly, these shots had to be filmed really quickly after applying it, because the horses would try to lick it off. A subtle mistake you may have never noticed was made by the Scarecrow when the wizard hands him his diploma. The math formula the Scarecrow spurts out so enthusiastically is actually wrong.
Sum of the square roots of any two sides of an isosceles triangle is equal to the square root of the remaining side.
Dorothy's famous ballad Over the Rainbow was almost cut from the movie. It's hard to believe, but back then the MGM studio executives were anxious to get Dorothy into Oz, and they felt that her singing a 3-minute ballad next to a barn of all places was slowing down the pace of the story, and that kids wouldn't even understand the message anyway. Thankfully, associate producer Arthur Freed convinced Louis Mayer that he was making a big mistake, and threatened to leave the studio if Over the Rainbow was cut. So the studio owner relented and kept the song in, which nowadays is considered by many institutions to be the greatest movie song of all time. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. If you want to learn about the many near-death experiences on the set, then click the video on top, or click the video down below it to enjoy another suggested video to discover more fun facts about your favorite films.